So hi, I'm Stuart Alden.
And I'm Georgina Wilson-Ayala. And together we present Advance to Contract, the podcast series where we explore how SMEs can break into, engage with and secure contracts in the UK defence sector.
So join us as we share insights, strategies and real-world experiences to help you navigate this very complex but at the same time rewarding market. Welcome back to Advance to Contract, the podcast that helps innovative engineering and technology businesses navigate the defence sector and, most importantly, win work. I'm Stu, and with me is Georgina. Hi, Georgina.
Hi, Stu. Hi, everyone. So today we're tackling one of the biggest challenges, but / the biggest success determinants, which is how or what is a good proposal, and what a good proposal looks like.
So we're going to talk about both proposals to the MOD and also to primes as well for SMEs, yes.
Yeah? Yep. I guess from your perspective and experience, what does a good proposal look like? Or what does good look like in defence?
Yeah, okay. And I think that's quite key to actually have the sector aspect to it, because there's some differences in working across sectors, as you and I know. I think you start with the basics, really. So the headlines are that the bid needs to be easy to follow. So put yourself in the seat of the reader. So clarity, structure. So it's easy to follow and easy to follow against the requirement or the questions that have been set for you to answer. And also that you are constantly referring back to those requirements and those questions, so that the like I say, the reader can understand what you're trying to get across to what he or her has set for you. And also, I think we've talked about it in previous podcasts. It's evidence. Back to that again. So how can you back up your claims that you are putting in your bid with facts and figures?
Yep. I think when we've worked together, we say there's the 3 C's, don't we? The credibility, compelling, and what was the third? Help me out.
And I've lost you there. Clear?
Clear.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Clear, compelling, credible.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So we got there at the
competitive.
It is.
And
it
clear.
is Friday after all.
It is Friday.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it for anyone who's read a bid, you need to be able to get through it. You need to understand it, and you need to make sure that they're answering the question. It's as simple as that. And you know, whilst it might sound very very clear, some people don't answer the question, and they'll miss stuff out.
Yeah, I feel like they answer the question they think is there, isn't it? Or they want to answer.
Yeah, so don't try and shoehorn in your solution into a bid that's come across. So we said right at the beginning of that question, you know, for defence specifically. So from your experience in working across a number of different sectors in capture management, what differentiates bids in this sector from others, do you think?
So for me, it's working beyond, as you touched on, beyond that written requirement.
Right.
And sometimes we don't have the requirement, do we? It's a case of where we have to assume what that requirement is. So I guess dependent, and we see this in defence quite often, where, especially in the early market engagement phase, where the customer might know the outcomes they're looking for, but they don't yet have the requirements, and they're looking to industry to develop those.
Right.
So I'd say it all comes back to the requirements or the assumed requirements that we're helping to develop as part of the procurement.
And we touched on in a previous episode about capture planning and capture management.
Yes.
That's obviously going to play a key role here, because
definitely.
If you're starting from scratch and just seeing something come out on a framework or a portal, and you haven't engaged with the end client or understood what they're trying to do, or have individuals within your organisation that have worked for the client, then that must be quite difficult.
Yes, it is. Yeah, it's difficult. Yeah, I think we always say, I think from an idealistic point of view, we always say, if you haven't heard about it and knew about it, then don't bid. But I think that's, from my personal views, that's always quite a negative or an idealistic way. So actually you can still as you'll have found, you can still win work if it's off the portal. But I think it's maybe a lower win rate or overall effectiveness, because it would be better if you'd known about it before. So, I've worked in some companies where if you hadn't got, awareness of the RFP, that would just be a no bid straight away.
Okay.
But then obviously on the other flip side, in a period of growth or where resources are less, we still have to build our bidding capability, and to do that it could just start on the portal.
Okay.
So it's still about that being a focused effort rather than just saying, oh well, I don't know about it and that means I'm not going to win.
Yeah.
Just being aware that it might reduce our chances of winning.
Okay. So that's the importance of looking beyond the opportunity, basically. So trying to predict forward, like you say, especially in defence, which is quite difficult because there's so much going on and it's such a noisy environment in terms of lots going on. You need to be almost predicting what's coming down the track, and I think we'll touch on how we do that in a bit. We touched on evidence as a key aspect of the bid. What sort of evidence would a reader be looking for?
So for me, it comes down to I guess evidence of delivery, isn't it? And giving the evaluator, whoever that is, if it's a formal procurement or private sector, where whoever is assessing or receiving the proposal, making it easy for them to say yes.
Okay.
That effectively, and there are mechanisms to help create a proposal which gets the evaluator to say yes. One of those being that win strategy / win theme workshops. So for me, these are mechanisms which can help teams develop proposals that result in more proof, more trust, more confidence, so that the evaluator says yes. And these can be scalable. We've touched on in the past, you've got a task order off a framework. Is a win strategy workshop still needed? Right. So my view is yes, the principle of it or the spirit of a win strategy workshop is, but of course that can be a 30-minute sprint session running through looking at the customer, what we know about the customer, what our solution is and what the competitor is, and then out comes the key win theme threads that will go into the proposal.
Okay.
And then that will range straight through to when we're looking at like a strategic opportunity, new customer, maybe multi-million-pound deal, where that win strategy workshop can go into days and be attended by 16, 20 people from more different parts of the problem, the user community, to develop that win strategy. So it really is scalable. We could, I've even ran win strategy sessions on email. It might not be ideal, but in a situation where resources are low, timing's low, bid budgets are low, it's about the principle of getting that win strategy. How are we going to win this bid or the deal? How are we going to create a proposal that gets under those customer, to demonstrate understanding of the customer needs?
So the win themes yourselves, what are you trying to extract from your team to understand how to best position yourself to get the contract? What are those core elements of those win themes?
Ideally, and what is fully exciting is when those win themes link back to a customer pain point. Right. We could call them hot buttons, pain points, worry areas, what makes them wake up at night.
Okay, yeah.
So the most effective win theme, in my view, has that customer problem, how our solution is addressing that, and then even better when it's then positioned against a competition. So if we know a competitor might approach it in X way, our win theme will overcome that as well. It doesn't have to do all those three things, but again, it's all about scalable, isn't it? It's not only about the ideal. We can work just having a good win theme of we're going to be a smart supplier and be flexible is good enough. Yeah. But then if we can link that back to how the competitor might not be able to, then that's like even better.
So I guess what you're trying to do is read between the lines of the requirement of the RFP or the ITT or whatever, and again, put yourself in the shoes of the reader to say, well, we've asked you this question, but do you really understand what I'm asking and what I'm looking for you to deliver?
Yeah.
So if you go beyond and think beyond the question, that's when you're saying that you think you've got a better chance of winning. You're not just literally answering the question.
Yeah.
You're putting yourself in the shoes of the customer.
In the shoes of the customer. Yeah, definitely. Okay. Yeah, and so that win strategy, win theme workshop is one of those mechanisms to help in that. We've heard about the storyboards.
Yeah.
Again, so that's another mechanism tool.
So just talk us through storyboards then.
So a storyboard is a tool that helps writers or the author, again, varying degrees of, I guess, like what a proposal team looks like, but it's basically a planning tool that converts the win theme, win strategy, all that customer intel, all that good stuff into how it can be translated into the proposal. And it can range from a bullet point list, so just a plan as we would do for writing any documentation, right the way through to maybe a few page document per question response of a tender. So again, it depends on what we're doing. But again, I've seen in teams where you're pressured for time, you just want to get going, and then the storyboard is skipped. Okay. It's seen as a burden when actually it is an enabler if it's used properly, or seen as something that can help.
Setting out almost like the titles or the headings of each of the individual areas that you want to cover in the bid.
Yes.
And not necessarily doing that detailed activity, but structuring the bid such that you know that it relates to the question being asked.
Yes.
Because I think, like you said, if you just start writing, you can go off in a tangent and a different direction and probably end up not answering all the questions. You need to be able to make sure you've got those headings that align. And then I guess also you can start to task individuals to look at different areas of those.
Yep.
That bid as well, is that?
Yeah, exactly. That's it. Yeah.
Okay.
And then, I guess an ideal or even better position is if those win themes are plotted into those headings. Okay. So then it's a clear link. And maybe if we've got case studies that then link to those areas, we can put that in the story. Not the content, but just a note to say we will be doing a story.
And what about people talk about marking guides as well, because you've got a scoring matrix for most bids that you get. Public or B2B, they'll kind of tell you how they're going to mark that bid. 20% for price or 75% for technical offer. How do you then align those win themes and your structure of the bid with that marking guide? Or some top tips there?
So the first one really is to prioritise according to that. So I think especially if we've got limited time and I guess effort. I guess the best. Don't
spend lots of time on the 20%.
Exactly.
Do it on the 80%.
Yeah, okay. So that's one thing. And then also, secondly, is good to understand why do we think the customers put it in that angle. It can help to then underpin some of the question responses we do. In the storyboard, if we have got the evaluation criteria, it's also possible to put that in there. And then also to use that evaluation criteria in the review process so that you can look at it from that angle. It depends, doesn't it? Because sometimes the evaluation has a bit of detail and sometimes it's just a one-liner, which makes it difficult to interpret. But I think those are like the three key things to use that evaluation.
And people talk about boilerplate as well in terms of stuff that you not repeat and cut and paste, but you've got prior material that you can utilise to input. What's your thoughts on boilerplate? Does that save time or does it cause more time to change existing text? What's your thoughts on that?
It's a very good point, Stu. You triggered a memory from when I first started.
not a traumatic one, I hope.
No, it's not too traumatic. It's just when you look back and you think, goodness. It's when I first started my career in bidding, and there was a bid for Greg's University operating in the banking and finance sector. Right. And that was as a result of using boilerplate template, where it was, as you just said, it's just copy and paste. And there was no thought given to, Okay. So I think when used well, boilerplates are really good, in terms of this 80-20 we've spoken about. But again, it's good if it's only the base, maybe the baseline is there from the boilerplate, and then
you build on it.
Okay. And if there's like some signposting, so I've had feedback in the past where I've created some boilerplate material, and it's ask questions to ask the authors to think about things from a customer perspective. Right. So it gives a really good basis, but it's good prompt. Yeah. Okay. So I think boilerplates work very well. Yeah. It's just a case of, I guess, just not a copy and paste, as you said, because like I say, that doesn't always work well.
And what's your? Sorry, we're going totally off script here, but that's exactly what we're all about.
Yeah, of course.
What's your thoughts on AI in bidding? So you talked about prompts and things like that. A lot of people say, well, I'll just put it into AI and it will just throw out the right answer. But what's your experience in use of AI with bidding and how potentially useful it is, or some of the pitfalls?
I think I'm still on a journey myself with getting to know AI and its benefits and things. I think I've used it very well when I guess competitor analysis, which is I guess a bit off thing, but still relevant to like what we're talking about here. In the absence of time and people to sit around the room to do some brainstorming on the competitor, I've used ChatGPT to wear the hat of a competitor and say, how would you operate in this, or how would a competitor do this, that type of thing. So it's been very good at doing that. What's in the public domain, bringing that. Yeah. That's been one way.
So almost using it as a research agent, basically, market intelligence, that sort of life. Okay.
Exactly, yeah. I've also seen it used well when there's like our red team stuff that we will come on to, being able to look at, so if there's, again, around privacy and data management and all those things.
Which are key in most sectors, now. But especially in defence.
Exactly, especially now. But as long as all that compliance is there and we can use AI for a red review, I've seen it work well for, I guess, expediting a quicker update post-red review. So we've had a red review, we've got the output from how things can be improved, and it will help to structure that. So instead of it being overwhelming when you come out of a workshop, on that, it makes it more easy to. So I think it's quite impressive on how it consolidates information, isn't it, and data. Have you found that?
Yeah, absolutely. We've been using it for a while, but it does need that sense check.
Yes,
and it can't be. I don't think it replaces the experience of a bid writer and someone with that knowledge of the sector. Yeah. It might speed up the ability in order to undertake the bid process, but it still needs that individual to sense check it against what they know, because it's just going out there and finding information on the web, isn't it? It's not necessarily thinking in the way that you would perhaps think.
Yeah, exactly.
And you mentioned
smart, but not fully there.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and it's amazing how it's developed even over the last year to 18 months. We use it a lot. But maybe that's another topic.
Yeah,
AI in defence.
Yes, let's hear. We could put that out to our community, can't we?
Absolutely.
Interested
absolutely.
to hear that.
And we're looking for guests to come on.
We are, yeah.
So maybe we'll do that.
Yes.
You touched on red reviews. So can you talk us through? I mean, there's black reviews, there's red reviews. I'm not totally over it. What's the sort of theme there, and what are they for? What are these reviews for?
So again, fully scalable. So I see this as being another one of those mechanisms for helping proposals become, or being able to demonstrate, understanding of the customer needs. So another one of those mechanisms. So the red review, I suppose we should really start with a pink review. So the pink review, we'll get around the rainbow soon, Stu.
Yeah, excellent.
Could even do green like the nails. I just realised.
Is there pink in the rainbow? I don't know. Anyway.
TBC. So the reviews are, I guess, the governance stages. Again, fully scalable, so done by email, workshop, meeting, in person.
So who's involved in these reviews? Is it inside the organisation? Do you get externals in?
So I'd say internal people, stakeholders from various functions. So they've worked best, again, if the opportunity needs it or benefits from that. If it's a strategic opportunity, then I'd say bringing in different functions to look at things from basically different customer hats, ideally. But so the pink review, for example, the proposal, we've done the storyboard, we've had a kick-off, it's now 25% drafted. The pink review's main purpose is to check that we're on track to achieving the response that we're looking for, in terms of like the win theme demonstration, answering the questions, compliance, all those things.
Right.
So that can be done by a bid manager or a senior sponsor of the opportunity. It's great to bring in a salesperson or one person wearing all those hats. I think it's important sometimes to look at roles, isn't it?
Yeah.
In addition to like all the,
because
we can all wear different hats.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's the pink review. It's also, again, as I said, scalable, so it can be used for a full-on technical proposal. But another way I've seen it work well is on like a framework opportunity, and there's a use for CVs. The CVs are just as important as, in the part of the submission can make or break it. So let's review the CV before it's fully completed, so we can make sure it demonstrates all the
you've got
customer.
The right person.
Yeah, the right person. Okay. Right, so again, it's preventing last minute things being picked up down the line. So we do all that, take that away, and then we come to the red review, which is almost 90% complete. And the really main purpose is to get an independent person to review that against the capture material or win strategy plan, win themes, whatever that looks like in that form. So that's one thing. Then secondly, to review that against the evaluation criteria, wearing the evaluator's hat, if that's the case, if we've got that, or it's good to know we can assume that evaluation criteria, can't we? Even if we don't have it from the customer, we can still say, well, what is important to the customer, and then make that up ourselves if we haven't got it, just to direct things. And then thirdly, from a company point of view, is this all aligned and, for what we want to put out there? Because at the end of the day, the proposal
so more
is
from a strategic level of the,
exactly.
of the company. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So red review from that point of view. And then updates, take that away, updates, and then we'd usually probably do a gold review or white glove.
Right. Wow. Well, where did the white glove come from? What's
a magician.
Okay.
And the white glove was back in the days when it was those, if you remember those proposals that were page turn paper, in the full. Yeah. We've not had those for a while, have we?
It's all digital.
Yeah, it's digital. So you can't really do a white glove.
Okay.
But yeah.
It's now a gold review.
Yeah, it's a gold review.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, and that's just an executive sign off effectively.
That's interesting. Lots of different colours there.
So many different colours.
Excellent.
I think it can be so overwhelming, can't it? And that's why I always encourage teams to look at, well, what are the principles and the objectives of those, and work with that.
Yeah.
Because otherwise I think it can get quite overwhelming.
And also you don't have to follow that all the time, but
exactly.
I think the main principle is having externals to come in at various stages within your bid process to make sure you're still on track and following it, because we all know that when we get into the detail of the document, we get a bit word blind and we don't see the wood for the trees, so to speak. So it's always good to have that external to come in. You also talked about different hats, customer hats there. I think one thing that I've seen is that bids get separated when they go into the customer, and one section might be marked by a commercial individual, one section might be marked by a technical individual, and they don't see each other's sections. So I think it's important to make sure that you understand that it's not all going to be read. The bid isn't going to be probably read in its entirety. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, definitely. Okay. I think it's a really important point to raise, isn't it? Because I think quite often authors think, oh, well, it's in the whole document, it's in the whole proposal. Whereas actually it's better if it's, like you said, it's
repeated
better,
through.
As far as possible, given like the word document or the
word count and
and things.
Okay.
But I guess like the main sentiments of it, I think we could use an executive summary to bring all that together. If that's allowed, various had creative ways of trying to get an executive summary in. But I think definitely.
You want to make sure that both of those readers, whilst one will be focused on technical, one will be focused on commercial, that they get the holistic view of what you're trying to offer. So therefore there may be some repetition in across of those areas, but you want to do it for marking perspectives.
And I think it comes back to that storyboard use, doesn't it? Because that can help to structure that so that those key messages or key value things are there to tick off. That's a good point to raise that.
So let's get on to another topic of compliance. So in terms of what do we mean, or what do we mean by compliance? We say that compliance is really key for bids, and some bids are thrown out because they are non-compliant. But what do we mean by compliance?
Well, to me, that is, it can be funny, different dimensions, can't it? So you have a compliance of the bidder response of the document, making sure everything's been included and attached in the right structure. So that for me, I would call like a response requirements for the tender.
Yeah.
But then there's also the compliance from a customer point of view, isn't it, in terms of how does our solution meet the customer's compliance? So whether that, I guess, could start in the requirement set if we've got those, but then also needs to come through into how do those requirements become activities in our proposal, and then how do those activities become built up into a program? So ideally that's like the ultimate compliance, isn't it, when we can show that link. So I think that's a compliance from that side. And I think probably thirdly is compliance from our business perspective. So the entity bidding, how are we compliant to our governance process and making sure it's a winnable, deliverable piece of work? And there's like export, all those other things. Would you agree with those?
Yeah. And I think I'd probably add the fact of there's a lot of yes/no questions in a bid as to whether you have got a certain accreditation or you've got a quality management system, you're ISO 9001, you've got cyber essentials. So some of the compliance issues can be quite simple in terms of tick, yes, I have that. But I have seen bids where people go, people forget the simple things and don't put them in, and they get thrown out because they haven't done it. And I guess that comes back to the benefit of having an external review that, an external person to the bid team review that to make sure that you've ticked those boxes.
Yes,
because we quite often see in marking schemes that it's a go no go sort of criteria right at the beginning, because someone will be given the whole proposal to say, right, just go through that and make sure they're fully compliant with these aspects before we then hand them out to our individual markers and reviewers. So,
and it takes quite an understanding customer, doesn't it, to let that go and give you the opportunity to follow up, to respond. And if you're on the portal, sometimes it's even more of a not achievable.
We haven't even touched portals yet, because you have to write it in one document and then cut it up and put it onto a portal and make sure it meets the word count. And, So in terms of a compliance matrix then, what do we mean by that compliance matrix? I think we referred to it in a previous episode. It's a tool that allows you to make sure you've answered those questions, isn't it? How have you used compliance matrices before?
Yeah, so definitely for me, it's a good practice to put that in, even if it's not called for by the customer, because I think it encourages. I think it's beneficial for the delivery teams in the bidding entity to work through all that, because when you work through that, then it just gives that, as we talk on, deliverability, confidence, trust. If you've gone through that and put that into the activity list, put that into your schedule, developed assumptions from it, and all those good things, it just shines wonders, doesn't it, on the proposal, because there's no cracks, there's no risks left open. So I think the compliance matrix has an important place from that angle. And again, if it's asked for by the customer, like you said, it's a make or break, it's needed. That's the one angle. I think there's also the bidder compliance matrix, which is helpful. So I think I've worked well when, even if it's not asked for in some form of the, part of the proposal, there'll be, this is what you've asked for, and this is, we've demonstrated
this is where it is in.
Exactly. So I think that's great too.
Yeah, no, I've seen that before as well.
Yeah.
I think that was what I referred to previously about one of these pull-out pages at the back.
Yes, exactly.
You kind of double up the page and pull it, have an A3 page at the back, and you pull it out, and then the bidder can just literally, you make their life easy.
So much easier, isn't it?
Yeah. I think that's what we're trying to do with putting a bid in, is make life easy.
Yeah.
We all know when we've sort of had things to read through, if it makes your life easy, then you'll be more likely to mark it higher.
Yeah, exactly. So, I remember very early on, I had the privilege, I call it that, of going to some events that were on the procurement side, the SIPS events. And there was one opportunity where I was sat on a table with evaluators, So we had a chance of exchange of what looks good, and it was exactly that you just mentioned, that page.
Right. Yeah.
But again, it was back in the day when we had paper proposals.
Yeah, you can't do it on a screen. Well, maybe you can.
You can in a way, but it's still not. But it was just, so it just makes, as you said, the evaluator say.
Do they still ask for a paper copy and a hard copy these days?
I've not seen that.
No?
No.
Okay, it's all sort of submitted by hand.
Maybe
I'm showing my age. Yeah. I'm showing my age.
It'd be great.
Love to hear from people that still do paper and hard copies. Okay, so I think you talked briefly before about assumptions, risks, exclusions, caveats. We used to call it CARES.
Okay.
Caveats, assumptions, risk, and exclusions.
Oh, that's a good one.
But from your point of view, is that's the bidder putting forward what is and what isn't in the proposal, what they see as a risk, both to the delivery of because you're showing the market that you've assessed the bid and whether it is those areas of risk and how you're going to mitigate and how you're going to deal.
Yeah.
So is it good to have that sort of CARES or whatever you've used before in your bid? Yeah,
definitely, 100%. Yeah,
okay.
I like the care. I think that puts I think sometimes some teams see that as it's like a bit of an
add-on or whatever.
An add-on. Whereas actually it does such wonders, is it, when we talk about, I think in our first episode, it was trust is the currency, isn't it, which we're working in.
Yeah.
And the ultimate trust is given when you see a full-on proposal, which has been assumptions, all cleared. I always have a view, I don't know what your thoughts are, Stu, but when assumptions aren't there, you're basically letting the customer take that as a problem, effectively, aren't you?
Yeah. And I guess what you mean by that is the way that you've put your bid together, you've assumed, if it's not written down in the question set, you've assumed this particular way that the customer wants it written, and that's how you've gone about it. But you're actually saying that that's what you've assumed.
Yeah, exactly. So it's fully wrapped up. Yeah. Right. So from assumptions, and then I think also once we get to a negotiation phase or the next phase, even if that's not even negotiation, it's just like the next phase, whatever that is, we can have assumptions that are then closed out, can't we? If there's still the ability to have open communication with BD, they can take some of those assumptions, try and close them out and work it through, which is why I always like to have a capture plan that has assumptions there too, so that it's possible to like try and work those through throughout the whole process. So you're de-risking
the bid as you go through.
Yeah,
okay. And talking about risk, again, something else that people see is, we've got to put a risk matrix in here.
Yeah.
It's an added annex. We'll just go through the normal risks. How do you go about putting your risks together for a bid to demonstrate? I guess you just said there's risks internal of you putting that submission in, but there's also the risks that you want to show to the customer and how you've mitigated them. How do you go about that?
Well, you know me, Stu, I love a good workshop. So obviously,
whiteboards everywhere,
whiteboards,
sticky
notes,
absolutely.
And I've facilitated those risks. So really, a risk workshop again to cross, multi, what do you call it, like multi-faceted or from commercial
all
to
different
all
areas
parts.
of the business.
Yeah, exactly. So to have around the table or virtual, what are the key risks? So we'll identify those, and then we'll go through like whatever that template is in terms of the impact, mitigation, the cost of it, if we have to put it in our pricing, or ideally, if we want to be competitive, at least get the business to absorb that if possible, or make a plan and not pass it to the customer. But whatever that is, it's worked well in a workshop. Okay. But again, in time and resource, also doing that one-to-one with the disciplines. Eventually, once we're on a mature product or service, it's possible to have a bit of a baseline risk register. And I've seen it where we've just gone, is that applicable? Yes, no. Right. And then we can update. So is that
coming back to our template?
It is. Yeah. But I think quite often it's difficult to do that when it's the first of a kind, isn't it? Product or service offering. But yeah, definitely the risk register. Again, I've seen it more often, if you've seen it, Stu, where the customer's asking for that risk register now, aren't they?
Yeah.
Which is understandable.
Yeah. And I guess having those prompts in terms of or what's the technical risk, what's the commercial risk, what's the financial risk, all of those areas. At least it gives you those prompts to work from, and then you can develop it.
Exactly.
And I think the key point is, don't try and do a risk matrix on your own.
Definitely.
Because you work better across teams, and you'll bounce off other people, and you go, oh, that's that. But what about this? What about that? And how have you dealt with that before, etc.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah, very good.
Another thing I just wanted to touch on before we sort of close out is this sort of value for money, because especially when you're bidding into MOD, proving your value for money is critical, because we're dealing with the public purse. It's taxpayers' money at the end of the day. I'm not saying that's not the case for B2B, but you're under more scrutiny from an MOD bid than perhaps from a B2B bid on that area. How do you articulate value for money in a bid? What's some tips there for listeners?
Yeah, so it is a challenge, isn't it, in that sense, because it's such an important thing. I think you definitely need that customer view, as we've touched on. So the value for money, or VFX, however it's done, if it's done via that, or even just establishing value, I think if we don't have that customer view, it's quite abstract and is our interpretation of what value is. So I think, that could still work, but it's much better and effective if we've got a view of what's the value to the customer. And then,
it might not be financial. It might be operational, or pulling forward the availability of a platform, or taking the risk off for in-service maintenance, or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think, what are your thoughts on how to best bring that out when you need the customer intel view?
I think the way I've used it before is just thinking about what we call the defence lines of development. So DLODs. So I think I might have spelt out the acronym before, but tepid oil. You've heard of tepid oil?
No, I don't think so,
training, equipment, personnel, information, doctrine, organisation, infrastructure, and logistics. So it gives us an ability. You're going to take that one away,
I'm
aren't
going
you?
to take notes.
So it gives you the ability to look at the project across the whole system of systems.
Okay.
So it's not, when everyone says value for money, everyone thinks pounds. But it's not necessarily that.
No.
I think you've got that sort of time, cost, performance triangle that is value for money. So are you going to get a bit of equipment into the hands of the user from a defence perspective quicker than somebody else? What's it going to cost? Upfront cost and through live cost, and then what's the performance aspect of it, the quality, etc. So looking at those defence lines of development and looking at the sort of tepid oil acronym is quite a good way for you to think, well, have we covered the fact that when we deliver this bit of equipment, it is going to need training. It's going to need some information. So it's going to need some publications of how you use it, how you maintain it, etc. Is there any logistics side of it? Do we make it easier for the customer to transport it around? Have we thought about transport cases, or how it's going to fit on a vehicle, etc. So for me, it was always very good just to go through those that checklist to look at that. So you'll take that away.
I'm good. Yeah. No, I really like it. It's good that it's the whole
it's system of systems approach. I think, and being an engineer by background, I love a good system. So
and I like systems. It's a thorough approach, isn't it? You can't stand alone.
Exactly that. Yeah. And we also just to keep on the sort of cost theme.
Oh yeah.
We talked about different costs as well that could be in a bid, because you've got those upfront costs, so things that non-recurring engineering costs for people who are putting production in. You've got the unit cost of if you're producing a particular product, then you'll have a unit cost, but you've also then got the in-service cost or the operational cost that you need to look at. So don't just think about how much a product costs it in when when you say to a customer, that's how much that individual product costs, but thinking about all of the aspects and all of that cost. And that will help you to de-risk it internally as well, because you may not have thought of some costs that are going to come back and bite you when you've sort of delivered it. Is there anything else on the cost aspect that you would sort of identify?
Well, it's an interesting area, isn't it? I think I call it like cost activity. I think it's quite a, it's again, I guess it's underpinned by understanding the customer. But yeah, I am with you. I think it's important to acknowledge, even if it's not always communicated to the customer, it's important for us to have that so we can help to demonstrate that value. I've seen quite often, which is unfortunate really, where we have that information, and I think it's that data on costs, like you said, maybe the through life costs, which can help to strengthen our like value or demonstrate that value to the customer. But sometimes the bidding entities are reluctant to share that because you think, oh, it's the IP, or but actually it's probably, it is what the customer needs.
They want to know that.
They want to know that. Yeah,
no, absolutely. I had a recent client sort of contact me and say that they've had pushback because of license fees and things in service. So just make sure that you read the sort of detail of the requirement to understand whether some costs are off the table or on the table, and whether you need to incorporate that in your unit cost basically, and you're not doing recurring costs.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So just to try and wrap up, the last question is, common mistakes that you might have sort of seen in winning or losing bids, losing bids. What are the common mistakes that you might have seen in bids that you've worked on or seen other people work on previously?
Well, I suppose we've just touched on one in terms of the costing activity, hadn't we? In terms of not understanding the full costing and having probably a narrow view on what information to share. Like, I hear often in the, we'll provide that once we're in contract. We'll provide that when we're in contract. Well, actually,
it's too late.
Too late then. We need to demonstrate it now.
What happens if you don't get the contract? Yeah.
So that's probably one of the main ones. Okay. And I think as well the view of just not having the, I guess, full looped back to those user needs.
Yeah.
So I guess the opposite of what we've all been discussing now, isn't it? In terms of just not putting in enough evidence and granularity and detail to back up what we're saying.
Read the question.
Yeah, read the question.
Yeah.
Maybe we had £1 for every time you said that, Stu.
Absolutely. And I think I would also add, don't just think it's technically focused.
That is true. Yeah.
Think about, because a lot of people in technology organisations get very focused on, well, ours is the best solution technically.
Yeah.
It might be, but how are you going to help the customer to get it into service, the project management, the program management, the commercials that wrap around that. If your commercials are too risky, then your technology might be the best thing out there, but the buyer is not going to touch it because it's a commercial risk. So I think, again, elevate yourself to the systems level, think about all aspects of the product, and I think, again, that's the benefit of bringing external people in to wear those customer hats.
Yes.
To make sure it's good.
Very great.
Cool. So I think that's it for this episode.
Yes.
Next time we'll be diving into another key topic to help SMEs navigate the complex and often challenging environments of defence. We'll continue unpacking practical insights, strategies, and lessons to support your journey from innovation to contract. So from myself, thank you very much for listening, and thank you for being here, Georgina.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Enjoyable as always.
Thank you.
Okay, so that's it for today's episode of Advance to Contract, where we help SMEs navigate into the defence landscape with clarity, confidence and purpose.
So if you found today's discussion useful, don't forget to subscribe, share it with your network, and leave us a review. And if you've got questions or topics you'd like us to cover in future episodes, we'd really like to hear from you. You can download our top tips and resources from the website link in the episode description.
Thank you for listening. And remember, every big contract starts with a single conversation. Until next time, keep advancing.